So, recently I've been playing two different horror games back to back with one another. The first one that I started with was Fatal Frame Maiden of the Blackwater on the Wii U, and if you've been keeping up with my Twitter feed, then you know what my thoughts are on that game. It's a really fun and decent throwback to horror games from the PS2 era, but it definitely lacks some of the much needed polish that the previous games in the franchise had. However, my biggest gripe with the game so far is that while it is both spooky and creepy and knows how to handle an atmosphere, it really isn't that scary. Sure, I've jumped a few times here and there while playing it, but it definitely lacks that foreboding dread that I had when playing the other games. When I played the original on the Xbox, the feeling of fear stayed with me long after I shut the console off. The same, however, can't be said with the newest iteration. But where Fatal Frame fails to leave a lasting impression is where Darkwood really triumphs. For those of you who don't know, Darkwood is the first game to be developed and published by the Polish Acid Wizard Studio team, and is by far one of the most horrifying gaming experiences I've had in years. Before I continue, I want to state that I haven't completed the game yet. However, I think the experience that I've had with it so far are enough for me to give this game a recommendation to just about anyone looking for something that's truly scary. See, I bought this game a while back on GOG, basically off of a hunch. The gameplay style, from what I could see in the trailers, looked far too arcadey to be really scary with the top-down perspective and all, and the fact that it had crafting in it set alarms off in my mind. See, crafting in most games usually grinds the game to a halt and makes exploring the world feel more like a chore than anything. But the game kept getting rave reviews online, so I caved under the pressure and bought it on a sale, and it sat in my library for 8 months, until this week when I decided to install it on my new PC, and I've been blown away with my experience so far. As the game starts, the oppressive and grungy mood is immediately set by the intro cinematic, which gives us some insight into what's been going on. What comes after that is a brief period of time where you play as a doctor who's also stuck in this forest, without any contact to the rest of the world beyond the thicket. As we explore his dingy house, we slowly become aware that the doctor isn't particularly normal himself, and after finding an injured man in the forest, he proceeds to bring him back to his abode, not to heal the man's wounds, but to interrogate him so that he might find an exit to the forest. After the doctor beats the living shit out of the guy, the game switches perspectives, and we now play as the guy in the trench coat throughout the rest of the game. You have a second run-in with the doctor where you proceed to bash his skull in, only to then be attacked by a bunch of things, and wake up sometime later in another house. And this is where the game really begins. Now, you're let loose to explore the rest of the forest, which is randomized every time you start a new game. However, this game follows the Nosferatu Wrath of Malachi style of randomization, where the areas are pre-built, but their location is shifted with every new game, which is how I like it. It usually means that the game won't have to constantly throw awful reused assets till you vomit. Every area you see is lovingly crafted and warped as all hell. The game's art style and aesthetic just look amazing as well. What's a game without gameplay? Well, I'll tell you it's $10 on Steam, but that's besides the point. Most of Darkwood's gameplay can be boiled down to scavenging for supplies, smashing some monster's head in with a stick that has nails in it, crafting, and trading with merchants. As stated before, there is combat in the game, and it takes some time to get used to, as there's this sort of wind-up before you can actually hit something. It's fairly clunky, but it's supposed to be, and it works really well. Crafting is done mainly to make weapons, torches, and make healing items. There's nothing intrusive like a hunger meter to drag down the fun, however you do collect mushrooms to put in your oven to gain a perk, as well as a defect. Supplies aren't just used for crafting, though, as they are also used for boarding up windows, making traps, and for trading with some people you meet along the way. Some will buy just about anything, while others might only buy weapons. Each trader has a different value for different items. Just make sure you have the items on you in your inventory when you go out to find them. There are also side quests in the game, but most of the time you'll just be busy gathering just enough supplies to survive the night, which is, ironically, where the game really shines. As night slowly approaches, your cone of vision starts to glow orange to show that dusk is upon you, and that you have to rush your ass back to home base before it gets dark. And when I mean dark, I mean it's advanced dark. You actually can't see anything unless your lights are turned on, but they'll only work if the generator has enough gas to power them, so if you're really unlucky you might be stuck inside while it's pitch black. And while you certainly can't see the enemies, you can definitely hear them skulking around in your house, and you just have to hope and pray that they don't take an interest in you and decide to burst through your barricade before sunrise. Usually, being stuck in one place is pretty boring, but Darkwood manages to make it feel terrifying just about every time. Nowhere is safe from the beasts that lurk in the woods, and even if you are well armed and have every window and door locked up, the monsters can still break through if they're persistent enough. It also doesn't help that sometimes things just happen out of the blue, like a door swinging open while nobody's there, or a bunch of poisonous mushrooms start to sprout out of the room you're in. Every second when the sun's not up is terrifying. In one playthrough of mine, I was doing terrible. I had no healing items, not enough wood to barricade any of the doors or windows, and no self-defense weapon. The only things I did have were a decent amount of gas and some metal to make a few small traps to impede any of the monsters' progress. Basically, if anyone wanted to come in and rip my face off, they could do it with very little effort. So I sat in the corner of the room and waited. All the while I could hear something rummaging in the next room over, and I caught a glimpse of something walking past the unboarded window. It was by far one of the scariest moments in a game that I've played since Fatal Frame all those years ago. And when the sun started to rise, I was honestly more relieved than I've been in years. So, would I recommend Darkwood? The answer is a resounding yes. It's a fantastic game that I think is well worth the $14.99 that it cost on GOG and Steam. But if you don't believe me and you don't want to spend the money on it, you could always pirate the game with the publisher's consent. And no, I'm not joking, Acidwood Studios themselves uploaded the game to Pirate Bay as a form of protest against key resellers, and have implored people that if they like what they've played, they could pay for it on GOG, Humble Bundle, or Steam, which has instantly made Acid Wizard Studios one of the coolest gaming companies that I've ever seen. Well, I hope this video made you aware of a game you didn't know that you even wanted to play until now. It's a great game, and I hope you guys will give it a chance. I loved it, and I hope you guys do too. Well, anyways, I gotta go, and I hope to see you guys next time around. Bye.